Yes! On my way right now to see Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Spider-Man, I'm so excited to see this movie. The trailers look absolutely fantastic. The early reviews that I've heard sound great, and I am just beyond hyped to see this movie. Will it live up? Let's talk about it. Spider Swing! Oh! I'm not Spider-Man. Welcome to Durbania. I'm Durbin, and this is my spoiler-free review for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I'm giving this movie an A. An A because it was just so awesome. I had so much fun with this movie. It was unreal. I thought it was so well written. The story was engaging. It had a great beginning and a great middle and a great end. And it built to those places, and it felt so natural the way it built there. Great progression. It had fantastic characters. It did a great job taking these spider people from different Spider-Verses and different versions of Spider-Man, bringing them together, catching me up on who they are and just enough of their universe to get their uniqueness, and then carry on this particular story. And so it did a really good job with that balance. It did a really good job helping me get to know these different versions of Spider-Man and Spider-Gwen and Spider-Ham. So it did a really good job helping me get to know who these characters were so that I can enjoy these characters and continue on this story. What I'm trying to say is it didn't feel like Spider-Man 3, where they threw in tons of villains all at once and it was just so cluttered and whatever. I didn't feel like this was cluttered at all. It just was so natural the way it was done. It all felt right, and I just really enjoyed it. On top of it all, it's a great Miles Morales origin story. Now, I don't know much about Miles Morales, but I grew up DC Comics, the DC movies and all that stuff. I got into Marvel more as I got older, and I really love the movies. I love Marvel characters, and Spider-Man, probably like so many other of you out there, is my favorite Marvel hero. I love Spider-Man. And I didn't know too much about Miles Morales. So for me, who doesn't know much about Miles Morales, this is a fantastic origin story where I get to know him, I get to know his family, I get to know where he comes from, how he becomes Spider-Man, how he grows into that role. Like, they did a really good job introducing me to a Spider-Man that I had never met before and endearing me to that Spider-Man. Like, seriously, his character arc in this movie was just so good, which is crucial because he's the heart of the film. Like, it's about him. Like, yeah, you got all this fun Spider-Verse thing, but it's the Miles Morales Spider-Man origin story. And how many times have we seen the person get bit by the spider and get their powers? But they did a really good job with that. They did a good job with the spider bite scene. I freaking hate spiders with an unyielding passion. Do I want to be Spider-Man? Of course I want to be Spider-Man. But I don't want to get bit by no spider, and I absolutely hate spiders. The scene with the spider was so good because I'm sitting there crawling in my seat like, gosh, bite him and get it over with already. I can't stand it. And so they did a really good job with that. They had a lot of fun with that. Getting to know Miles Morales' Uncle Aaron, like, that was really cool in the way they introduced us to him. I don't want to say too much more. If you're a real Spider-Man fan, you know exactly who Uncle Aaron is. If you know nothing about Spider-Man, well, this is a spoiler-free review, and I'm not going to, spoil it, but they did a really good job with him and his character and how his character impacts Miles Morales, and some of the best emotional scenes came out of that. Some of the funnest scenes came out of that. So they did a really great job with all these characters. And, it was really interesting because I didn't realize Chris Pine did a voice in this, and he's the Spider-Man in Miles' universe. And so, it was really cool. He was on screen for such a short time, but in such a short time, I really liked this character. And then when he was gone, I was incredibly sad. And then, as soon as we got the Jake Johnson Spider-Man, is that his name? Yes, Jake Johnson. Sorry, I just know him as, Nick from New Girl. But as soon as we got the Jake Johnson Spider-Man thrown in there, man, I really liked him. And that guy definitely comes from the darkest timeline. Okay, well, maybe Spider-Man New York comes from the darkest timeline, but it feels like the Jake Johnson Spider-Man at least comes from the most depressing Spider-Man line. But they did a good job with this character that you could tell he's come from hardship and a hard life, but, it's a fun Marvel movie, and you have fun with it. So, my goodness. They just did a good job with him. And what's really cool is it's about Miles Morales, and it's his character arc, and they gave the Jake Johnson Spider-Man a very nice story and a very nice character arc. So like those were the two main Spider-Men that it was focusing on, so their growth together was really important. Then they bring in Spider-Gwen, and she's like the third main one, and so it's really also a bit about her arc. Her arc to me was not as strong as the other two, but it was still there, and it was still strong, and she was a very solid, very good character. And I want to know more about Spider-Gwen, because I don't know that much about her, so it was cool to get to know her in this movie. The other one that I really want to know more about is Spider-Man Noir. Nicolas Cage voicing that Spider-Man was just fantastic. And, you know, watching the trailer, I figured I want to know more about Spider-Ham, and I could care less about Spider-Man Noir. And it went the other way around. Not that I hated Spider-Ham, I still like Spider-Ham, and he was a great character in the movie, but then I want to know Spider-Man Noir. But he was not as big as of a part, so he didn't have that great of a character arc. He's just kind of there and kind of part of the troupe. And I was like, no, I want to know more! Which tells you they did a good job, even with the smaller part that he had, because it left me wanting more. So if they do a sequel to this, I would like to see that guy come back, and I would like to get to know him a little bit more. So all in all, again, fantastic animation. Probably should have seen it in 3D. I really, really enjoyed the story. So well written, very clever, well done. And the characters were all engaging. Like Wilson Fisk, I know about Wilson Fisk basically through the Daredevil Netflix show. So it was really cool to see this level of Wilson Fisk, and this Fisk that's not the enemy of Daredevil, but the enemy of Spider-Man. And he was huge. At one point, he got out of a car. My wife, Laura, sitting next to me. She's like, how does he fit in the car? He's the size of the car. But whatever, it's forgivable. It's totally fun, and I enjoyed all of these characters, so they did a great job bringing them all together, and it was, I had a blast. A. So if you're looking for a fun superhero movie to see this weekend, I do highly recommend this one. Is it for kids? There was a kid in the theater right next to me, and he seemed to be having a fantastic time. I think there might be some images and things in here that are scarier for younger kids, and maybe some themes that are scarier for younger kids, but definitely your older kids. Like, I have a nephew who's 10, and I think he would freaking enjoy it. So there it is. That's my thoughts on this movie. I'm very much looking forward to seeing it again, and seeing it again in 3D, and I'm definitely going to get this movie when it comes out on Blu-ray. So if you saw Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, what did you think of this movie? Let me know in the comments, and while you're there, hit the subscribe button to become a Durbanian, and hit the bell by the subscribe button so you're notified for my next movie review, ranking video, theological analysis, or anything else I do here. I'm Durbin. Thanks for checking out Durbania.